Fertilization occurs when a male gamete and a female gamete combine and make the worst decision of their young lives. Biological sex is the way that organisms organize their sex characteristics for the purposes of biological reproduction. Sex is a bodily reality. Sex is not determined by any one specific sex trait. One's biological sex is a constellation of different traits working together. We find two forms of biological sex characteristics that are needed to successfully reproduce the species: male sex characteristics and female sex characteristics. For biological reproduction, males have mostly male sex characteristics, and females have mostly female sex characteristics. We distinguish between primary sex characteristics and secondary sex characteristics. Primary sex characteristics are directly involved in reproduction, including the production of gametes, which are mature haploid germ cells that have undergone the process of meiosis. Secondary sex characteristics are the physical characteristics of an organism related to or derived from its sex, but not directly part of its reproductive system. Sex characteristics exist in a hierarchy of importance or value, depending on the purpose. For the purposes of biological reproduction, primary sex characteristics are at the top of the organizational hierarchy in comparison to secondary sex characteristics. On either end of this binary, you have people with the ideal organization of sex characteristics for reproduction, people that are the most fertile, i.e. they have the best pathways and relations for a male gamete to encounter a female gamete. This ideal organization for reproduction is unique in each person, as things like genetics, environment, and hormone levels will always differ with each individual. So you have many different variations on the organization that can still produce the outcome of maximum fertility. This is because everyone's body has a degree of novelty when compared to other bodies. If you want to bring Mother Nature into this, and you do, each individual is an experiment of organizational tactics to reproduce, and may the fittest survive. Between the two ideals, you have a spectrum of different ways bodies organize sex characteristics. Some of these organizations have significantly lower rates of reproduction, some require human interventions to become a fertile organization, and some are entirely infertile. Even in infertile cases, we still consider these organizations male or female, not because of some higher purpose they fail to achieve, but because these organizations still contain mostly male and female traits and all the maladies and misfortunes that they entail. To say that biology is unchanging is utterly absurd, and probably one of the least scientific statements you could possibly make. The fundamental characteristic that biological things have that non-biological things don't is the ability to change and adapt on their own. Therefore, biological sex is not immutable. It naturally changes and is malleable. We are born with traits that can have the function of reproduction, but are immature and have other functions besides reproduction. For instance, genitals are used for a variety of things, most importantly urination. A phallus is a morphologically male sex characteristic that under the right circumstances can have the function of sexual reproduction, but it does not always have this function. We enter puberty, experience crippling existential angst, and we gain additional sex traits, including the activation of processes, functions, and or new networks of relations. The endocrine system dramatically increases the amount of steroids in our bodies, especially testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, follicle-stimulating hormone, and lutropin. These are steroids, meaning that they stimulate organs in the body to grow. These hormones not only cause growth within your reproductive system, but also cause growth in most organs throughout your body. Furthermore, all of these hormones exist in both male and female bodies. The sexual difference is the levels of each hormone. Because of the adaptability of the human body, if you give somebody with XX chromosomes male hormone levels, the XX chromosome cells will respond in a way similar to XY chromosome cells, and vice versa with female hormone levels and XY cells. As the ravages of time continue, The organization of our biological sex continues to change, often leading people towards infertility. If you want to go way back, and by way back I mean the womb, the OG sex characteristics are genes and chromosomes, and yes, these are technically two different sex characteristics. Regardless, you find two proto-reproductive organs in an embryo, the Wolffian ducts and the Mullerian ducts, which exist by about the 3rd month of gestation. At this period, there is only one protogenital organization. Around the 3rd or 4th month of gestation, based on a combination of genetics, chromosomes, and hormones, sexual dimorphism begins. One of the ducts will grow and develop, and the other will atrophy. The uniprotogenitals will also begin to dimorphize into the many organizations we know and love. In the middle of this spectral binary, you begin to find incongruent organizations that mix female and male sex characteristics together in ways hitherto unknown. We call these organizations intersex. While there are only 2 kinds of gametes, we find multiple forms of chromosomal organization, multiple genetic variants, multiple ways genitalia are constructed, and so on. Intersex organizations often can be categorized as more female than male, or vice versa, because of the propensity of one set of traits over the other. What is key to the category of intersex is the inclusion of sex characteristics we typically do not find in male or female organizations. For instance, a person with primarily female sex characteristics having an XY karyotype, or a person with primarily male sex characteristics having an XX karyotype. It is a misnomer to simply say intersex organizations are disordered, because if we're talking about for the purposes of biological reproduction, many intersex organizations are more or less fertile. So in order to make sense of biological sex, we have to add to our spectral binary between male and female another spectral binary of fertile and infertile. With this new map, the different organizations are looking far more complicated than a strict male-female binary. As was mentioned, sex characteristics can be changed through human intervention. Not all sex characteristics can be changed via artificial means, but many can. A person's gonads, gametes, germ cells, various reproductive organs can be removed. A person's genitals can also be changed to a morphology more similar to another sex. The levels of the various sex hormones one has can also be altered, which dramatically changes one's various sex characteristics. A person who changes their sex characteristics away from their birth sex is known as a transsexual, though one does not have to change all of their alterable sex characteristics to be considered transsexual. Medically transitioning typically renders a person infertile. A transsexual person's sex characteristics are organized so that one's secondary sex characteristics are at the top of the organizational hierarchy. So there are multiple ways one can organize their sex characteristics for different purposes entirely unrelated to biological reproduction. Another purpose of biological sex is sexual desire, and this also shows us unique ways of organizing physical traits and functions independent of reproduction. While sexual desire can exist as a powerful incentive to reproduce the species, many times reproduction is irrelevant to the production of desire. Erogenous zones are areas of the human body that have heightened sensitivity, the stimulation of which may generate a sexual response such as relaxation, sexual fantasies, sexual arousal, and orgasm. Beyond genitalia, nearly every part of a person's external body can be an erogenous zone, which includes but is not limited to lips, mouth, neck, ears, armpit, thighs, feet, anus, and buttocks. None of these body parts have anything to do with sexual reproduction proper, but are nevertheless ways in which sex characteristics can be organized to fulfill the purposes of sexual desire. And each individual person will have their own unique ways of organizing these bodily characteristics in order to achieve maximum pleasure. In conclusion, while there are only 2 gametes, and reproductive sex characteristics typically fall within the 2 categories of male and female, there are innumerable ways in which these characteristics can be organized for a wide range of purposes. If you feel I got anything wrong in this video, leave your comments and the thoughts below. Thank you for watching, thank you to my patrons, and we'll see you the next time you make a wrong turn in one of my strange corners of thoughts. Goodbye.